was a beautiful day that day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky.
I was in my 5th semester at College of the Ozarks. I was 20 years old.
I was probably a senior in high school.
I had just dropped all 3 of our children off at school.
Another student came running in and said, hey, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center.
I was in English class, and they did roll that cart with the big box TV, rolled it in, and we watched it.
Everyone believed that this had been an accident.
I saw what was happening on the news.
Some crazy thing happened. Pilot lost control of the jet.
It was scary, and it was scary not knowing.
Then the second plane came in and hit the second tower.
I didn't know anything about terrorists or terrorism.
2 towers full of innocent people.
I will never forget that day.
We weren't at war with anyone.
I just remember sitting in my living room, just watching the news and sobbing.
This is an attack on the United States of America. There was no other question about it other than, hey, who did it and where are they at?
Brett was in grade school. Certainly, I think he remembers that day as well. And that's part of the reason he's where he's at now. I'm Deanna Rookstuhl. I'm part of the nursing faculty team here at College of the Ozarks. Our son is Brett Rookstuhl. He's 28 years old and he's in Army Special Forces. Brett started talking about being in the Army his first year of college. He's always had that bent towards being an advocate for others, especially those that couldn't speak up for themselves. We encouraged him to finish at least 2 years of college, and sure enough, after 2 years, he had fulfilled his obligation, and he said, Mom and Dad, I want to go into the Army. It was a lot to process, but as we learn more, and certainly working here at College of the Ozarks, where patriotism is such a pillar, not just in mission, but also in practice, we can see how important his decision was. Brett's first deployment was actually this past summer, and he was responsible not only for being part of a 12-man team, the combat portion of that, but also his particular job was in communications. I don't know how any military family could weather a deployment without faith in God. For Scott and I, that has been a cornerstone. We could not have daily peace without an understanding that God has a plan and His plan is perfect, and that is what we rely on every day. I think that one of the hardest things was that he couldn't tell us everything, and we may not know where he's at exactly. The fact that we couldn't talk to him every day. We couldn't talk to him very often, actually. And there was one particular time where I missed one of his calls. It had been a while since we had heard from Brett before then. When I listened to the voice message, it was just something about the mama's sense that knew that something wasn't right. You don't want your mind to go there, and you don't want to over-dramatize things, but as a mom, it's hard not to do that. I had to just wait. That's when I had to really rely on my faith that no matter what happened, that it would be okay, that it had to be okay. We were able to actually FaceTime with Brett a few days later. Everything was under control, but yet, those are the moments that are tough, when you don't know and you can't talk to them. I don't think that I could express how proud we are of Brett. Not only Brett, but all those that he works with. They've volunteered to be in that position. They want to be there. He wants to do the job that he has been called to do. And what we can do as parents is let them do it. Let them go.
We were in this war because of September 11th, and it is a part of America's history now, and it's a part of our family's history. My name is Liz Isaac. I work at College of the Ozarks. I'm the bookstore manager. I'm married to Brian Isaac, who is the Director of Patriotic Activities here at the college. Brian and I have been married for 12 years, and we have 3 kids. I met Brian in 2005. He was in the reserves. When Brian had decided to become a ranger, I think it was something that he had been thinking about doing and wanting to do for a long time. I don't think I realized what becoming a ranger or what that really meant. As part of being a ranger, Brian deployed a lot. When they weren't deployed, they were training. And when they weren't deployed or training, they were on call to go deploy. The crazy part about those deployments is I never knew when he was leaving. He would just up and be gone. And you don't know when they're coming home either. We went through Christmas apart, and we went through anniversaries apart. We barely talked. Maybe one phone call every few weeks. So pretty quickly after we got to battalion, I joined the FRG, so Family Readiness Group, and you have a good core of ladies, women, wives, girlfriends there. And I would say they're the only reason any of us survive deployments. You have those days that are just absolutely horrific, and whatever could go wrong goes wrong. You don't realize that we're sacrificing or what we're sacrificing. It's just our role as a military spouse is just support and to do what we need to do. You know, you don't ask questions, and you have to be okay with that. We just function the best we can and just pray that they're okay. And, you know, I think faith has a lot to do with that support role as well, and knowing that, you know, it's out of our hands, but it's in God's hands. For me, I didn't watch the news when Brian was deployed because I didn't know where he was, I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't want to see a news story and wonder. You don't want to hear what's going on because you also have to assume that they may be involved. The first deployment that he did to Afghanistan with the Rangers, there were people that got hurt. It trickles back, but no one knew who. You definitely fear the knock on the door. You almost fear a 3 a.m. phone call from them. You want them to call, but you know, when the phone rings, it is scary because you don't know. There are moments that you almost panic. You see a dark car driving down the road and you absolutely just lose it. All I could do when Brian was gone is pray and have faith that he'd be fine. I'm super proud of Brian. I mean, I've always been proud that he's decided to serve, that he was in the military, and we would never trade it. I wouldn't trade any of the deployments or any of the trainings or any of the time away because it developed us into who we are now. It makes you very proud to be an American and very proud of the military, and it makes you very aware of sacrifices that many people made and are still making.
My name is Justin McGee. I'm married to my wife Lydia. We have 3 children. I'm a Special Forces warrant officer within the Army, working at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. When September 11th happened, it was my 5th semester at College of the Ozarks. That drive to get my degree, that drive to do engineering and all that, I just kind of lost that luster. I finally said, hey, you know what? I know what I need to do. After that, I dropped out of college and started looking at opportunities to join the military. Many of the people that were in basic training with me, they were there for the same reasons. They came to defend their country. Over the past 16 and a half years, I've deployed 8 times to the Middle East. Everyone sacrifices in our military. Some have sustained serious injuries, lost limbs, and come through it. There's been a number of guys that they go out on deployment and they don't make it home. And that's hard. It's hard for the soldier. It's hard for the families, very hard. So, you think about those things when you're out there, and really about what that means. You just have to believe that God's in control. That ultimately, we may not understand what that plan is right now or how this is going to play out, but that there's a reason for what is happening. And in the end, even if you don't know what that reason is, you have to trust that God does. I think the hardest thing for me whenever I was deployed was, seeing struggles that my family was going through and not being able to assist. And sometimes, you need to give a hug or say, hey, it's going to be all right. They're still proud of you. My kids know that what I'm out there doing, hey, I'm out there, I'm deployed, I would love to be with them. But wanting to be with them and being with them are 2 different things. And really that's that sacrifice. It's really, what are we willing to do? How much do we love America? And what are we willing to sacrifice to ensure our freedom remains? What world do I want my children to have? Because there's still enemies out there that want to see us fall. And there's always going to have to be someone that's willing to go out there and fight that fight. So sometimes you just got to pick that up You put it on your back and you carry it. And that's your burden to bear. And that's how I justify the sacrifice. Because, I know my family, they want me here. They want me here bad. But, if not me, then who?
I feel like we are so blessed to be at the college and be surrounded by people who cared just as much about veterans and active duty as we do. We are really close to the memorials and close to Patriots Park. We can take our children up there and help them to remember all of the wars, and then now we'll get to remember, Daddy's war.
When I drive onto campus every day, that's going to be a great reminder to me of not only Brett, but also those veterans of the War on Terror.
100 years from now, people will be able to look back and say, here's another point where Americans did what was necessary. And it's important that we keep that alive in the minds of our youth. And I believe that's one of the great things C of O does. They realize what it has taken to get us where we're at. And they want to make sure that their students realize that that's the sacrifices that we have to make to go on to the future.